Welcome back everybody to more some Let's Play Final Fantasy XIV, and we're going to queue up for our very first dungeon here. And it's probably going to be a little late, so there's going to be a cutout, but why not talk to some people while we're here? Hello! Okay, we'll talk to her. Potions are expensive. Actually, you can buy them for like 1 gil on the market board, so yeah. Well, that's kind of mean. Now let's talk to this guy. Hello, little sir. How are you doing? Alright, so this group of adventurers is a little NPC party. Because according to the story, we're not the only ones who were in it for some money and some glory for handling problems. This is the little mini parties here. What's up, dude? Alright, that's good to know. Companions? Oh, that's sweet. Well, too bad I'm gonna get the glory because I'm the nameless protagonist. Howdy, how are you doing? I am not a pirate. Or maybe I am. I will never tell. Yeah, I'm gonna leave you be. You're not suspicious. Alright, so obviously this little hole here is what represents the actual dungeon. Well, the official entrance, and not the duty finder. If you ever click on the entrance here, once you open it up, it just opens up the duty finder window for you. So, alright, so I'll just cut back in as soon as we've queued up because I'm a DPS, so it might take a little while. Okay, here we go, finally, after nearly a half an hour of waiting. Ooh, alright. And I'm going to take another half an hour to actually complete this dungeon. Said before, most of these dungeons are completable in about 20 minutes to a half an hour or so. It basically just depends on how competent the people in your party are, and in some cases the dungeon itself, because some of them are a little bit more difficult and a little bit more longer than the others. This one's fairly easy. So basically, these are just a little bit more complicated than the guild tests. The party composition is the same: 1 tank, 1 healer, and 1 DPS. We're going to have a little list of objectives here to complete. Most of the dungeons are going to be trash pull, trash pull, trash pull, trash pull, boss, trash pull, boss, rinse, repeat. Some of which may have little objectives like having to gather keys, or after interacting with certain environments, or killing specific enemies. You may need to occur to open up certain gateways and things like that. Some of the trash can be avoided in some dungeons, and sometimes it can't. This is one of the ones where you do not have to go into every single room. Many you will get a mapping achievement just by simply going through the dungeon because there aren't extra paths. This is one of the few that actually has a bunch of extra paths, and thus a bunch of enemies that you don't need to kill. That was not supposed to happen. I got a little too close to their line of sight there because I wanted to read the memo. I couldn't see that they were facing me, but that's okay. The tank will get it under control. This is a very easy dungeon. The tanks will now have skills that allow them to pull from a distance, and also increase enmity in some of their skills. So it's a lot easier to hold it and keep it off from DPS, but obviously I have to not be stupid and accidentally pull aggro on this stuff or attack it too soon. So in this dungeon right here, we have a little bloody memo. Usually only one person in the party needs to read it. It's gonna be a little message here. And that little note in italics on the bottom, that is important. It's never spelled right, but it's going to indicate a color. That's the color to activate the first boss. You can trial and error it, but why not actually read it just to show you what it is. There's blue, red, and green. And it's always spelled wrong. Some of the other dungeons have notes that you may not, that are good for, say, just lore, but aren't necessary to read. Like I said, that one is not absolutely necessary to read. It can be done with trial and error. Yeah, as you can see, it's just going to be trash, 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 and whatnot. Some of these early dungeons, the healer can go cleric stance and attack, but it depends on how comfortable they are and whatnot. It's easier for scholars since they have a fairy that is capable of healing, and about half of the early dungeons in the game can be solo healed with the fairy and the scholar and cleric stance the whole time. I've done one of those people, I do that. So basically we're just sticking with the rotation here. The tank is marking stuff, and basically that's the preferred order of attack. That's the tank basically telling people, I'm focusing my enmity on this target, you do the same so you don't accidentally pull it. And it also coordinates the DPS a bit, so because the faster you kill one individual thing, the less damage the tank takes, and the less healing the tank needs and whatnot, and it's just more efficient that way usually. Now this little part right here, these little shade seekers everywhere, and there's a giant clam which will eventually close its little mouth there. You don't want to keep the tank, see there he closed. Once the tank closes, the clam closes his mouth, sorry, he's going to become invulnerable, but he's going to summon more of these shade seekers every time he opens up, the longer he's alive. So you want to pretty much focus your energies on him until he's invulnerable, in which case you want to obviously switch to taking care of these shade seekers over here. Now these treasure coffers here, they're in specific locations in every single dungeon. Some of them will have loot in them, some of them will have random crap like this. Like this one is a potion. The ones with like the random crap items, it is completely random who gets that item. Doesn't matter who opens the chest or whatnot, it does not go any sequence, it's just random. Every chest in each dungeon, each individual one has a very specific list of loot that can be obtained from it. So you're not going to find like rare items in specific chests. Some items, there are some rare items that can be found in certain chests, but again, it's specific to the chest itself. There's like a loot list of several items that it can possibly contain. And you don't know what's going to contain until you open it. I'm too busy talking and not paying attention to what I'm doing here. Yeah, see, we can get the clam before it shuts, and then we won't have to deal with any more of these shades, which die pretty quickly. As you can see, I'm barely getting any damage in. I should probably be using Scathe on this part. A lot of the treasure chests in some of the earlier dungeons get ignored if they're in the way. Like this one right here, I'm not sure if we actually have to go along this path, so we may or may not be getting that chest. Some of them that have absolute trash and are only worth like 1 gil, like the potions and ethers are only worth like 1 gil on this server. Some people may not bother unless it's literally right in their face. So yeah, we're like 5 minutes into the dungeon and we're not even at the first boss yet. Hello, Mr. Clam. How are you doing? Alright, I'm just gonna use Blizzard to knock these out. Just make my life easier. Oh, and they're already dead. Okay, whatever. Yeah, some of these enemies are going to be stationary in the dungeons. They obviously all spawn in the same spot, while others kind of may patrol an area a little bit. Thank you for marking it now, tank. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kite this back over to the tank a little bit. Makes his life easier in regaining immunity on that, because tanks aren't ranged. They have like one whole ranged attack, so if you ever do something and pull, or either accidentally or because you're not paying attention or the tank's not paying attention, drag it back over to him. Makes everybody's life a whole lot easier. Just skate that one to death. Yeah, we don't need to get that chest. We can sort of ignore that section. Unless he's gonna go for the experience. Okay. Why not? Yeah, easy way to regain MP right here. And Blizzard 2 actually causes bind as well, so... Well, right here, I'm just gonna open that. And of course, it's the same person who gets it, yeah. It's completely random who gets that. Like, I've seen the same person get, like, almost everything, sometimes. You just never know. Yeah, these die too fast to justify casting fire on them. Ah, he's waiting for his MP. Okay, yeah. Tanks have really low MP, and one of their moves to gather enmity that's AoE requires MP. The Marauders here also have a TP move, but it's also very TP intensive, so it's not uncommon if you have a Marauder or Warrior to have to wait around a second between pulls to let them regen a little bit. This little thing here, this little purple line, is a barrier. This is the first boss room. So remember what that said earlier? About red? He's gonna touch the green. Or maybe he's not. Yeah, if you touch the wrong one, it's gonna summon an ad. Most of the time the boss is actually just going to be sitting in the room. This is one of the few. So we find a little switch. And we hear something moving in the distance. That's the inconspicuous switch that just showed up. And now, once you engage in a fight with the boss, in 15 seconds, that door is going to seal. And it's going to block anything from getting in or getting out. And it will not open until either everybody in this room dies or the boss dies. You can see this little barrier here. Now this move, Charge Whisker, here is an AoE. It can be stunned. But this early in the game it's not really necessary, but it's good practice because later in the game you will want to stun certain moves to make everybody's life a lot easier. So yeah, this guy is incredibly easy. He's just got really no specific gimmick to them. A lot of later bosses will. But yeah, he's really easy. And now the door is unsealed. Hooray! Now these chests have actual regular loot in them. These are dropped by either bosses or there are other specific chests in the game that have a chance of dropping these items. This loot is everybody in the party gets access to this. As you can see, I'm just going to talk over this fight here. We have need, greed, and pass. If your current class is a class that can equip it, you are allowed to roll need. If not, you can greed on it. And if you don't give a shit about it, you can pass. And by clicking any of these, it's gonna roll random number between 1 and 99. A pass is gonna roll you a 0. So what it does is once everybody rolls, or if the time runs out first, it has a 5-minute time limit on it. It's gonna check who rolled need first, and it's gonna award it to whoever rolled the highest. It's all RNG. If nobody rolled need, then it's gonna go to the greed rolls and do the same thing. If everybody rolled pass, the loot is gonna be lost forever. Now, I rolled greed on it because eventually, even though I can't equip it, I will have a use for this. So it's going to sit in my inventory for quite a while. So we have another boss seal door here. And those items actually have better stats than the so-called gear I have now, which is often referred to as white gear. Eventually we will have pink gear as well, which is even better. So the Captain Madison over there is the actual real boss, but we want to get rid of the ads here right away just to make our lives easier. And mitigate some of the damage that the tank is taking. Again, these early dungeons are really easy, but it's still good practice to, actually, follow kill orders and make use of your skills and everything like that. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of people in game who don't know how to play their class properly, and it's poopy. And I'm gonna flat out admit I'm not the best black mage out there because I haven't played black mage. Well, technically I'm not a black mage yet. But I haven't really played one in several months. I switched over to Bard main. So yeah, it's generally, especially in these early dungeons, it's pretty much okay, unless somebody is specifically looking for a specific piece of loot for glamour or whatever, and they actually come out and say, hey, can I have that? It's generally okay to greed. Because anybody who actually can roll need on that gear and wants to need it should roll need, and they take priority over the people who greed it. So this poor guy's just asking for advice, so it's always a good thing. If you don't know how to play your job or you have questions, it's okay to ask. Okay, now he's gonna mark it. Well, I don't accidentally pull this, but that's okay. Yeah, Thunder pulled it, but that's alright. It's okay. It's a new tank, I can forgive. I was a complete noob once too, everybody is. Just know how to take advice, that's all. So this is a huge room right here. As you can see, our objective lists have been updated along the way, and except for the coral trigger, most of these are basically just, oh, you passed a certain point and you completely observed an objective. This is obviously our objective right here. It's for our quest, because it's going to be in the end room. This room is actually huge and has several side paths that we do not have to take. The first place we have to actually go is this door right here that you can see in the background. And then we'll be going over here-ish or so. You do not actually have to pull everything in this room. There's a lot of mini side rooms here that can be completely avoided. So depending on if this tank decides to actually pull some of this, we may or may not get the map achievement for it. So basically this guy is doing a bigger pull here, that he's dragging other mobs into it, In this situation, it's a meh idea, because right now I'm the only one who actually has AoE skills. And right now they're sucking, so... But later on, toward endgame, where more people, at least everybody has at least one AoE skill, and some of them are completely badass, it is wise to do big pulls like this. If your party can handle it. If you're not geared, don't do it. Alright, so we need the captain's quarters key right here. I'm just gonna get it. Ooh, we leveled! Yeah, these engines actually give quite a bit of experience. They didn't when the game first came out, but they upped the amount of experience you get, so... That's cool. And actually, as soon as we're done with this pull, I have a shield in my inventory that's equivalent to level 17, so we're gonna do that. Because we are still using a one-handed staff. Because the one shield we have doesn't have any stats on it. Which means it's poopy. And I transposed a little too early, but that's okay. Why did I just cast Thunder again? I don't know. This is what happens when I'm too busy talking. I'm not paying attention to my actual rotation here. Alright, so this is the door that belongs to the key I picked up. And I'm just gonna get close to these people because there's hookers in here! Or wenches, or whatever the hell you want to call them. It is a pirate lair. They get away with a lot for a T-rated game. They certainly push it, and not with the violence. Because we've already seen enough bloodless carnage as it is. Yeah, the only reason we got interrupted there is because somebody else interacted and picked it up first. So yeah, all these little side rooms here we're not gonna bother with. Like where all these pins are, those are all little side rooms. So we will not be getting the map achievement for this, but it hardly matters. We're not going out of our way to get achievements on this character. So we have another boss room right here. With Captain Madison again. Because remember, he escaped when he hit 50% health last time. And I actually need to change my character settings. They recently added an addition so you can actually see the HP percentage left on enemies. And apparently I have not set that up on this character yet. HP triggers will become very important later. Not just yet. Like right now, except for this guy escaping. Doesn't matter. And my kitty just woke up from her nappy nap. So yeah, this is basically exactly the same as the boss fight we just did. And there's a little parody-like creature back there. He's a colibri, which you can't really see him. He's a little guy right here. He's like kind of a mix of like toucan meets flamingo is what they are. Well, we'll be seeing them as an actual enemy later. Now, at a certain point, about 50% or so, he's going to release the dogs. More ads. And Tank did a good job of trying to gather him up here. So we're going to burn them down before we're going back to the boss. We're just gonna say I do not condone violence against animals. But hey, they're a pirate and they're out to eat my flesh, so for once I can forgive. Yeah, I can see a little bit closer on the bird here. So we get another treasure coffer here. With more crap we can't equip, but we're gonna greet it anyway. Yeah, and you can actually see the rolls you got there. So So there's a couple enemies in the way back corner that we can avoid too, because the boss room is actually over here, just behind that wall. The entrance is like here-ish, and it goes into there. So we're almost done. We've been in here like 20 minutes. It's about average. Oh. Hopefully the healer's on his toes. Or her toes. And the only thing that sucks about controller is getting specific enemies targeted like this. But it's quite alright. Now, on occasion, there's certain enemies in a mob that you might want to take care of first because they either might be healers or they might hit hard. Or, I'm actually going to take out this asshole because he's ranged. Or things like that. Or he's going to mark some more. Okay, alright, never mind. Sometimes the ranged ones are a pain in the butt, especially if there's more than one in the group. And if there's no convenient way to line of sight them, that is like going around a corner so you get out of their line of sight so they have to go up in your face and follow you to hit you. Sometimes it's best to take out at least one of the ranged and then pull the pack over to where the remaining one is. But these guys are pretty easy, so it's no huge deal one way or the other. So we're going to sneak along the edge right here, just to avoid those ones in the corner. And yeah, that's the actual boss room right there. Just one more little pull. Yeah, like I said, most of these dungeons are just trash pull, boss, trash pull, rinse, repeat. And they get kind of repetitive after a while. Certain dungeons are slightly more difficult, or slightly more annoying, or people end up with them too often, so they get sick of them. But most of them are just the same. Some might have better atmospheres. One thing that gets kind of annoying is because you're almost constantly engaged in battle, you hear this battle music over and over and over again. And some of the dungeons actually have really good music, if only you could actually hear it once in a while. Some of the endgame dungeons will change that. So if you can see in the background, that's Captain Madison again, with his little bird. That never gets old to see! So every boss, final boss scene, and every dungeon has a little cutscene that appears. It's only usually a couple seconds long. This is our first glimpse of the Sahagan. They are regular enemies in the game. So basically we're just coordinating right now. These unnatural rebels, they will play a role in just a sec. I'm going to stay at this back one right here, and I think the healer's taking that one. So they're going to be important in just a moment. So this boss doesn't really have much of a gimmick to him. He's going to be like the coral we have, and it's basically, except for this one little gimmick, what's commonly referred to as just a tank and spank, meaning there's nothing really special you have to pay attention to, just beat the shit out of him. So every once in a while you're going to get bubbles rising along the surface, and actually it's on mine. These little things right here, we interact with it, and it's going to stop. If you do not stop in a time, and eventually there's going to be more, it's going to summon another Sahagan ad, which are pretty easy to kill. eventually, more and more of these are gonna, Jesus Christ, mine again? There's gonna be like 2 of them going at once. And when it says the evil presence is gone, that way you know you have all of them. Some people might man 2. Usually like arranged, perhaps. Some people may sometimes occasionally ignore it, in the interest of getting off the boss. But we should be okay. This boss is not particularly hard, and as you can see, I pretty much soloed that ad completely by myself, so it's not a big deal whatsoever. Occasionally you might have strategies in fights like this where you just want to take and spank the boss, that someone like literally like kites them around the room or just like holds onto them. No, the monk just limit break there. I actually haven't talked about limit breaks in this game yet. I don't think I have. Yeah, I haven't. It's basically, there's 4 limit breaks in the game. There's a healing limit break, which absolutely sucks. There's a tank limit break, which absolutely sucks. And there's a magic one that is AoE. And there's a melee DPS, which is single target, which is what happened here. Sorry, I was gonna do a little victory dance! Hooray! And not a single piece of loot was from me. Poopy head. So I'm just gonna wait until we roll this. We're actually getting some pretty high rolls here. I have it set up to not show, but you can actually configure the chat log here to show up what other people have rolled. And like I said, it's all RNG, what you roll. So that was the basics of the first dungeon. Nothing too really difficult there or anything like that. And it's actually going to complete this objective when we leave the place, don't worry. Yeah, they're basically just giving the tank tips, yeah. Everything in the game generates aggro, and the healer is going to generate it by healing the tank as well, so. But yeah, about the limit breaks, you might have noticed the 2 bars here. By default in the 4-man dungeon, you have 1. At the final boss, it's going to increase to up to 2. And it's going to turn gold when each bar fills. And in an 8-man, you're going to start at 2, and actually at the final boss or certain encounters, you're going to end with 3 bars. And the strength of your limit break will actually change depending on how many bars are filled when you execute it. And like I said, it's only the DPS ones that are actually worth it. So Bard, unfortunately, does get the healer one. The only healer one that's actually useful is the full 3 bar, because upon execution, it is a full party revive, which under certain circumstances can absolutely save a run. But it does raise everyone instant on the spot with weakness status. So if you get like a big AoE coming, everyone's just gonna die all over again. So juice is very situational, like when you have a actual legitimate chance to win. And then that doesn't happen, it's just best to wipe it. So yeah, if you have a single target and you have either like a Lancer or a Pugilist or a Monk or Dragoon in your party, you want them to single target limit break. And if you don't have that, or you have multiple targets you want to limit break, that's when you break out the mage. And I will be using limit breaks later on. Or maybe we'll have, occasionally get dungeons where, for example, I have a Bard and I'm the only DPS that doesn't have a shitty limit break. It really sucks that the Bard doesn't have a limit break, because it's the same as the healer one. But it's alright. The tank limit break is a defensive one, which is, there's a whole 2 fights in the game that it's actually useful, and one of them is actually debatable. They really kind of got the shaft on that. Excuse me, I'd like to talk to this guy. Yeah, by me. How did you get the news so fast? I'm one of the many adventurers who took that job. So here we have another party of prospective adventurers. Why, thank you, sir. That was very kind of you. And she waves. Bye! Yep, I totally kicked that guy's ass. Except he kind of got stabbed and died. Apologies, I don't know why my phone has to go off. Nobody ever freaking calls me. A sister request? Wow! So we get roped into another adventure! Hooray! So yeah, the reward we actually get from this is pitiful compared to the experience we got in the dungeon itself. So we're gonna unlock a bunch of things here. One is the party finder, and it's basically just a list of people who are recruiting people for specific parties and whatnot. They might have average item level requirements, they have like the recruiters, they might have like details in here, they have people looking for parties for various things, people recruiting parties, maybe somebody recruiting for a company or a link shell or things like that, or rare items they want to sell and everything like that. You won't really be seeing me use this in the game proper, but it's just there. And did we get the other thing too? No, we actually didn't. Wow. Eventually, we probably may have to activate the next dungeon to do it, but we're gonna get a duty roulette for the dungeons as well, which works exactly the same as the guild test. It's gonna queue me up for a random duty that I have unlocked, and if somebody else is queued up for it and needs something on my slot, it's gonna put me with them. Or on that, it's gonna put me with other randoms who are in roulette. And the rewards for dungeon roulette is actually really good, and assuming you don't get put in a dungeon that's way too low comparison level, you can easily get, in 20 minutes, an entire level. If not two, if it's the right level. So that's really, really awesome. So we're going to stop right here, because this episode's going on a while. But, we're going to take care of some other things next time, before we actually go back to continuing the storyline quest here. Thanks everyone for watching, and have a good day, and thank you to the random people who were in my party that I didn't told I was recording. Shh. Have a good one, guys.